Did it work?
It did, indeed.
Hey!
Well, everybody, I actually have a special treat for everyone tonight. I interviewed Dick Larsen, I believe it was last year, and it got a tremendous response from people, and I wanted to bring him back and talk about something that is a huge, not only a huge issue with all of humanity, basically, in terms of joy and the need for joy in the world of really a lot of stress and unhappiness, really. But we're going to tie it into this information about Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom in a way that only Dick Larsen can really talk about joy, because he is one of the most joyful people I've ever met in my life. So without further ado, Mr. Dick Larsen, how are you today, sir?
Well, I'm fine. Thank you for that very kind introduction. I'm just thrilled to be back here. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I thought we'd talk about a recipe for happiness and joy today, according to the Ageless Wisdom and according to Maitreya's teachings, the world teacher, because it's really important. I mean, this is a tough time for people, and particularly right now, you know, it's the darkest before the dawn, and we're kind of going through the birth pangs right now of a new civilization, and it's a mess in a lot of ways, but there's hope. The future, I'm told, according to the Ageless Wisdom, is going to be really bright, and it's going to start any second now. Actually, it's starting now, but it's behind the scenes, and it's hard to see. So I thought we'd talk about how to be happier, how to have some joy in your life at this time.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, there are 4 areas of life I'd like to talk about, Gary. And I thought what we can do is I'll list them, and then maybe we can talk a little bit about each one of these. And the first one is detachment. Instead of being attached to things and people, detaching from them. Number 2 is selfless service. That speaks for itself, service. Number 3 is cooperation, cooperating instead of competing. Can bring a lot of happiness. And number 4 is communication, honest, sincere communication, instead of keeping secrets and being afraid to tell the truth, you know. So detachment, service, cooperation, and communication, I thought we'd talk about those 4, if that's all right.
That is fantastic. Let's get on into it.
Okay, well, detachment. Detachment is kind of a difficult concept for people, in my experience, to kind of wrap their brain around and understand how it applies to their life. So I want to just spend a minute on detachment because it's so important. I don't know if your listeners and viewers watch or read Dear Abby, but I glance at it from time to time, mostly for entertainment. But I notice in there that a lot of the letters, not most, but at least half of them, the answer, if Abby had the right vocabulary, the answer is detach. You know, don't obsess about these people's opinion about you or about what they do or say. Don't obsess on the fact that your sister doesn't want to see you as often as you want to see her. You know, it's you detach from them. Now, detachment can be physical detachment. You can leave the room or not see them as often as maybe they would like or whatever, or avoid them from time to time, or it can be emotional and mental, not obsessing on them, not thinking about them all the time, not getting upset about this person or the circumstance or the object that you're attached to. So detachment is about not judging them or condemning them. You can still like them, you can still love them. If it's a person you're going to detach from some more, you know, and you don't have to detach from them all the time, just under certain circumstances maybe. In detachment, it helps us realize that nothing we say or do can change a person's behavior. You know, they're going to be who they are, and very seldom are we powerful enough to change anybody. It also means not to allow ourselves to be used or abused by others. Detachment means you step back. You find a way to step out of that arena when you're being used or abused. Maybe you leave the room. Maybe you stop the conversation. Maybe you don't see them as often as you used to. Whatever. Detachment also means that we don't try to manipulate situations or people. because that doesn't work anyway, and all it does is build resentments, and that's a real attachment kind of thing, is trying to change people or manipulate them to do what we want or to be like we want. It doesn't work. You're much better off, and you're going to find greater peace of mind to just mentally, emotionally detach from them. It allows us to still love the person without necessarily liking their behavior or wanting to be around them all the time. And detachment allows us to let go of our obsession with others and lead a happier, more manageable life, Gary. You know, you can catch yourself. You don't just automatically start detaching from people. You catch yourself. You're obsessing about them. You're thinking about them. You're really bothered by something or something. You know, maybe somebody stole your car and it was your favorite car, and you need to detach from that. So what you do is you catch yourself when you're in the middle of it, and you just use self-talk. You just say something like, "Stop! I'm not doing that anymore." You know, and eventually you catch yourself in the middle of it, and it will start happening less and less. But detachment is really, really important to having peace of mind, and peace of mind brings joy and happiness. So detaching from people and things can become a really critical part of life. That's the first one. The second one is selfless service instead of being self-centered or self-serving. Selfless service. Now, the Ageless Wisdom tells us that the soul seeks to serve. Isn't that interesting? And so once we become aware that we might be a living soul, people start looking for ways to serve, to help others. It's just a natural thing that happens because that's what the soul seeks to do. It seeks to serve. And by the way, I don't want your listeners to think they have to believe a word I'm saying. Please don't believe anything I say. Just see if some of it works for you. Try it. See if you get a little bit more joy out of life, a little more happiness. So selfless service. There's no special way to serve. A lot of people, I've had people come up to me and say, "I'm trying to figure out which way God wants me to serve." No. It doesn't work that way. There's a world full of need out there. Just find a few areas of need that touch your heart, that are dear to you, and then work to help provide some relief in those areas of need. It can be financial relief. You know, money can be a great spiritual tool, a great helpful tool. That can be one way to serve. And then there's, of course, volunteering and doing what you can to help people. Walking across the street and picking up a piece of trash and dropping it in the nearest trash can is a service to the world. I mean, it's that simple. It breaks down to real basic stuff. Albert Schweitzer said, "Those who seek to serve will be the happiest." And that's exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about how service releases joy. It releases joy, which is a soul quality. You know, our soul has joy. It isn't just a state of happiness, that emotion. It's a deep-seated joy, and service releases that. Now, here's the thing about service, Gary. As you know, by definition, service means that you do it without expecting a reward. Now, if you do it expecting some kind of reward or recognition, then it's not service. You know, it undermines your whole purpose. You just do it because it needs to be done. You see the need, and you try to help relieve the need. Now, you can help people at all levels, family, friends. You can help in the community solve needs. You can help the nation, the country, solve some of its needs. There's all kinds of ways and levels to serve. But the thing about serving is it takes us out of ourselves. We're focused on others. We're focused on the people that we're trying to help, and we're not focused on our problems and our issues. And so, number one, it diverts us from all of our woes and feeling sorry for ourselves. But number two, it stirs the soul, because the soul seeks to serve, and it brings this joy out in our life. So if you want to be happy, look for ways to serve. That's number two. Number three is cooperation. And you and I know about that, Gary. The world is full of competition, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And what we're moving into a new era, a new age, and that age has different energies. And we're moving from competition to cooperation. We're moving from you or me to you and me. We're moving from a me world to a we world. And this is really important. It's about unity. It's about working with the groups of people trying to get good things done. So cooperating instead of competing. Competition robs us of our peace of mind. Competing with others for a job, competing with others for a promotion, competing to get more money, competing to have a better car, a bigger house, better clothes, competing to have the smartest kids. Whatever it is, it robs us of our joy. It robs us of our happiness. So I'm not talking about your kid playing Little League Baseball. That's fine. I'm talking about you having I'm talking about people having an attitude of competition with those around them. And it just kills the joy in life. It kills life. And so try as best you can to work cooperatively and to be cooperative with others. Even if you don't like them, you can still tolerate them. That's harmlessness, which is one of the great principles of the Ageless Wisdom Teachings. You don't have to love everybody, just don't hurt them. The world would be a different place if everybody did that. All right, so cooperate. Cooperation and service go hand in hand, as you can see, and it's about love. Those are all aspects of love, like harmlessness is, and love brings peace of mind. Love brings joy and happiness. So does tolerance, because tolerance is part of love. So cooperation builds trust. And when you build trust, it reduces the stress and increases the happiness. Seek to cooperate with people more. And the last one, Gary, is communication. Jump in anytime you want to. I mean, if I'm talking too much, let me know.
One part of communication that I'm working on is to just listen and not talk all the time. So I've been listening to you. So no, I'm learning a lot from you, Dick. Well,
you're doing very well then, Gary. I'll just keep going then.
Yeah, please.
Communication. Communication. I counseled. I'm retired now, but I counseled families and individuals for years. And one of the things I found out that was the biggest problem in relationships is lack of communication. That is to say, lack of honest, sincere communication. It needs to be honest and sincere, coming from your heart. Let your heart be your guide. You can't go wrong. And you can tell the truth to people, even if it's unpleasant, in a very loving and kind way. But don't communicate in a hurtful way. That's not useful. That's not the kind of communication and honesty I'm talking about. This some people call it tough love, and it's a misnomer because it's not what the concept of tough love is about. But they'll say things to people that are honest but hurtful. Well, we're not talking about that. That doesn't work. We need to be kind and tolerant. But we're talking about communication that's honest and sincere, and sometimes that takes courage. I've worked with a lot of married couples who don't communicate. Somehow it just kind of falls off. And then there are secrets that they don't communicate, and secret resentments. Now, let me tell you, everybody that's tuning in here, resentments kill life. Resentments are about things in the past. The anger is about right now. Resentments are about things in the past. And if you don't talk it over, if you don't bring it up, it's just going to build and build and build. And now your relationship is dying. And so are you in the process, because it smothers the joy of life from you. Now, the other thing honest communication does is it removes the guesswork. Nobody has to guess or read between the lines what you mean, because you're saying what you mean. Again, I'm going to go back to Dear Abby. I can't tell you how many times, I'll bet you 60% of the time, people write in, they complain about something about their partner or their relative or their children or something, a friend or an old friend that isn't a friend anymore, and they say, what should I do? And Abby says, Tell them what you just told me. See, it's communication. The communication has fallen out. And somehow people are afraid of the response. Don't be afraid of the response. Just detach from the response if it isn't what you like. You know, these things go hand in hand, these tools. So communicate. Tell people, how can you expect a partner to meet your needs if you never tell them what you need? That's one example. You know, another part of communication that's really important and that has fallen off in my observation in the world, in relationships, is please and thank you. Another one, because when you say please or when you say thank you, you know, it communicates a lot. It communicates a genuine appreciation when you say thank you. And when you say please, it generates respect from the other person. You're not demanding, you're asking. There's a big difference. Something else that's fallen out in communication is I'm sorry. Apologizing. See, people want to be right, and I'll tell you, being right is deadly because it kills life. It kills the liveliness. You don't have to be right all the time. Don't keep score in your relationships. You know, that's a killer. You know, well, you know, this time I, you know, you used to, don't do that. Don't keep score. And when you owe an apology, say you apologize. You know, and everybody thinks that the whole, let's say there was an argument. Everybody thinks the whole argument has to be their fault in order for them to apologize. No, not at all. Find a little piece that you can sincerely apologize for, like, I'm sorry I yelled at you. You know, and then when the other person, you have to talk about this when you're calm with your partner or whoever. But when you apologize, the understanding is that they will look and see if you're sincere, and if they think you are, they will accept your apology. So the communication isn't complete until they say, apology accepted, or I accept your apology. Now, the fight is now over. Now, you may never agree on what you were arguing about, but the fight is over. It's over now. Just by saying, I'm sorry I yelled at you, and they'll say, well, I'm sorry I called your mother a bad name, you know, that kind of thing. Well, I accept your apology. Yes, I accept yours. Apology accepted. Well, now they can start talking to each other again. Don't forget to apologize when you need to, even about a little bit of something. Start the process. Be the one with the most courage and start the process by finding something you can apologize for. And when the other person does, accept their apology. That completes the communication. You know, it's like prayer and meditation. Prayer is sending spiritual energy to the spiritual universe. Meditation is receiving spiritual energy from the spiritual universe. Together, they complete the cycle of communication with the spiritual universe. That's why they're always said together, prayer and meditation, because the same thing with I'm sorry and apology accepted, or please and thank you. Communicate. Say what's in your heart. Find a time when everybody's calm. Find a kind way to say it. Don't communicate in anger. And communicate what's missing in your life. Tell them what you expect. Tell them what, you know, I thought you would, but you didn't. I love it when you do that, but you didn't do it this time. You know, that kind of thing. And then you'll find out how much they love you. If they don't say they're sorry, then you got some thinking to do, you know. But you can't know that unless you communicate. So communication is really critical. There's an old saying, and in my experience as a counselor, it is absolutely true, Gary, and that saying is, the truth shall set you free. Boy, does it ever. I mean, the weight just comes off your shoulders. You feel so good, even if it's not reciprocated. That's okay. You did your part. You communicated, you know. And if you don't like the response, just detach from it. Okay, that's their opinion. That's all it is. It's their opinion. I'm not going to let it bother me, you know. I'm going to have a great day. You know, sometimes my wife has a bad day, and I still have a great day because we're detached in that way, you know. We're not attached in feelings. And sometimes I can have a bad day, and she'll have a great day, and I don't resent her for it because we're not attached emotionally in that way. We're detached, but we love each other dearly, you know. And so detachment and cooperation and communication and love and joy, Gary, they all go together. It's just amazing, you know. Living life well is an art. It doesn't happen by accident. You can live your life by accident, but you can't live it well by accident. Things that are worth having are worth working on. And my suggestion to your listeners and viewers is to work on these 4 things. You know, you don't have to do them perfectly. Just get better at detaching. Get better at providing service. Get better at cooperating. Get better at communicating. And just watch the joy and happiness come into your life that wasn't there before. Because these things are absolutely magical. Magical. Do the work. Practice the art of living.
You know, can I swing back to the second one about service?
Of course.
And kind of tie it into what we're talking about here. I can't remember if I told you this story, but I work for a retail establishment here in Atlanta. And without really mentioning names, because, you know, it's my workplace and my workplace is my workplace and this is different.
Of course.
But what I do is I train assistants on their job and how to do their job. So basically, I'm like a teacher in my career and for my company. And so I put all my energy and my focus on my trainee, on their career, and I lose sight of myself. And it brings me happiness and joy for some, you know, in exactly the same way that you're doing. But a few years ago, I think it was before the pandemic because I wasn't wearing a mask. So I would say it was probably 2019, maybe fall of 2019. So what's that, about 3 years ago?
Yeah.
I was working this one evening, and this guy wanted, it was a different guy, but this guy wanted a cigarette or cigarillos, which is like a cigar that they basically put weed in, and they take the tobacco out, put weed in. Anyway, so people get cigarillos and tobacco products all the time. Well, of course, it's a responsible retailing item, and I have to ask for ID if they don't look, you know, of a certain age. Sure. So I asked this guy for his ID, and he didn't have it. And he started to get really belligerent about it. This other guy that I just kind of came out of nowhere and came right up to the counter and looked at him and spoke to him in the language that he was speaking, because this other guy started yelling at me in a foreign language, ended up being Turkish. And this guy came out of nowhere and said something to him in Turkish.
Yeah.
And the guy that was belligerent about the cigarillos stopped and then left. And I asked him, I said, what did he say? And he goes, you don't want to know. It's really bad. I said, what language was it? And he goes, it's Turkish. He goes, it's one of the many languages that I speak. I was like, who bothers to learn Turkish? Right? So anyway, so then he started following me around as my trainee was doing. He was running the shift. I was kind of cleaning the place up, and I'm walking around cleaning it, and he starts asking me some just random questions about my job, and I'll try to answer it. And then I went outside to go sweep outside, and he follows me outside, and I said, all right, I'll see you later. And he goes, no, I'm not done yet. I'm like, okay, right? So whatever that means. So we went back inside. We started talking a little bit more, and then he asked me this question. He goes, why are you so happy working here? And I said to him almost the exact same thing you were talking about in terms of service. I said, at my job, I train people. And when I train them, I forget all about myself and I just focus on them. And I said, it's exactly like when I paint. Yeah. And I can forget all about my own problems and everything. I can just focus on the painting. And you know what he said to me, Dick?
What?
He looks at me and he goes, that is it? That is it exactly. And then just leaves.
Wow. Wow.
But the other thing that
that was a very wise man.
I know, right? The other thing that Maitreya said to me that I've thought about for many years, I was going through such a hard time in my life at this time, and he comes into where I was working at the time, and he slaps the money on the counter for a cup of coffee, and he looks at me and he goes, peace always starts from within, and then walks out.
Oh, wow.
So, you look at, these masters, Maitreya, central to his teachings is, Maitreya says he comes to teach the art of self-realization, right?
Yes.
And he says, everything that Maitreya talks about is very simple. That's why when people mention this person, they think this person might be Maitreya. I'm like, nah, that ain't him. Because, he's not speaking as simply as Maitreya speaks. His teachings aren't as simple, And what he said was about the art of self-realization, right? He says, honesty of mind, sincerity. We just talked about honest communication, but it's honesty also with yourself, right? You got to be, he said, have what you think what you say and what you do all line up, right? And then
there you go.
And then he said sincerity of spirit, which I think is service or creativity is a good example of where you forget, like you just said, forget about yourself.
Yes.
And you focus on whatever you're doing. And it could even be a creative thing, writing, music, painting, if that's your thing, right? And then he said detachment, which is the hardest for anyone to do. You know, there's such a huge, I was thinking about, not to tie it into politics and stuff, but there's this huge cultural issue about transgenderism where,
yes.
A lot of people are like, I don't, there's only men and women. That's it. I don't know what you're trying to identify with, but, but we all have wrong identifications. We all identify with something that isn't who we are.
Right.
I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat, I'm an American, I'm French, I'm rich, I'm poor, I'm an architect, and, even comparing ourselves to somebody else, they are way better at their job than I am.
Yes.
You're talking about competing, even
exactly
competing and comparing are like
same thing.
They're cousins, right? I mean, kind of, in a way, because you're, even if you don't feel like you can compete with somebody, then you're comparing and you're putting yourself down. Or if you're good at something, you're putting somebody else down in the process. Is that what you're, kind of getting at?
Yeah,
kind of,
totally.
And how, Krishnamurti talked about how when we compare, we've already lost who we really are. Once you compare yourself with somebody else, they're better looking than I am. They're, like in my case, they have way better hair than I ever had. No, they must be a much better person. And I joke around it with people on my job all the time. I go, oh, there's no way I could ever compete with you. You have so much better hair than I do. And they just laugh. But we're all different. We're all unique, in our own way. And not.
I think you have to pay your barber a finder's fee, right?
I know, right? Yeah, my when people always.
Joke.
I know, right? When people always say, we have the same barber, I said, no, we don't. And they just kind of look at me later and said, my barber has been following me around since I was a little kid, and I cannot get rid of this guy. I keep trying to shake this guy. Because I tell you, he wakes up, he smells, he's this, he's that, and he's just annoying. And all he does is annoy. I'm talking about myself, of course, but, I annoy myself all the time. Like, I cannot believe I would say something that dumb, right? Or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm the one that shaves my head, I guess is my whole point about that whole thing, Dick.
That's all right.
But, the joy, let me ask you this before we end. I want to hear the times that you met Maitreya. I talked about this the other day on a video and I even brought you up in terms of what you said about the listing of 5 times, or like, is it the 4 or 5 times? I can't remember exactly the whole list, but of that you might have met a master, right? And it was all the one that really caught my eye was about joy. You always comment about the masters having so much joy.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And how much, and one thing that Ben's master said that I have taken to heart, he said, fear and joy are equally infectious. And if you really think about it, it's so true. You can infect people with your joy, can't you?
Yes.
And I found that about you. Your joy infects me, where I actually feel like I have more joy after listening to you talk about the masters and so forth. But, you can also, and we all have it in our hands, don't we, where we could go the other way and talk about, something that's irritating us or something that's we're afraid of. Because the things that you listed, right, let me go back to this too, detachment, selfless service, cooperation, and communication, honest communication, right? You can't do any one of those things with fear, can you?
No.
Yeah, right?
That's right. And see, so many of us live our life regretting the past and fearing the future. Mm-hmm. Being afraid of the big unknown, And can I talk about that?
Absolutely.
And the fear is what stops us from experiencing joy and happiness in our life. let go of your fear. And if you don't know how things are going to work out, here's something to keep in mind. The only thing consistent in the whole world is change. So if you don't like how things are right now, just hang on there for a little while. You know, things are going to change. You know they are. I mean, they always do. Whether it's in your personal life, in your personal relationships, or in the world, or in your community, or in your nation, things are going to change because there's nothing more consistent in the history of the world than change. And so what you need to do is just hang in there. Hang in there, work on these 4 things, and be happy. And if you have children, teach them to be happy. You know, children need to be taught that happiness is okay, that they have joy right inside them. All they have to do is let it out. It's like letting out light, letting out your light on your family so that they can experience the joy and happiness with you. Teach your children to be happy. You know, this light can shine in the world and in your life and make your life happier. It just will. So don't let go of the fear. Well, our information is this is as bad as it's going to get. It's going to go better from here and in huge leaps and bounds, faster than it ever has in the past. You know why? Because the masters and Maitreya tell us that humanity is ready. See, they see our light. We can't see it. But they see the light of humanity over the eons has gotten brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter to the point right now where we are really ready to change the world for the better. And that's what's going on right now. So be happy about that. Don't dread the future. Please, please. Things are going to change. They always do. And our information is they're going to change for the better starting really, really soon. You know, I think Maitreya will be out within the next 5 years, probably the next 3 years. Could be sooner. You know, nobody knows the day or the hour, and there's nothing official about my opinion, but that's what I sincerely in my heart of hearts think. And I think that once that happens, things are going to... Benjamin Creme, for example, said that once Maitreya comes forward, starvation in the world will end within 2 years. Now, that's fast. And it's about getting the food distributed, you know, because there's enough food. There's like a 12% per capita surplus in the world. But so things are going to get better. Just hang in there. Keep your hope. Keep your joy. Keep your love. Keep your happiness. You know, work on the art of living. Be free. Everything you talked about, Gary, you talked about things being inside. No, that the master told you that. That it starts inside. Well, that's where all these start. Detachment, service, cooperation, communication. They all start inside. I like to say it's an inside job. Living life is an inside job.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about. I love it.
It is. Yeah. And everybody can do it. Just because you haven't been doesn't mean you can't. Just because you haven't been happy doesn't mean you can't be. You know, and there's help out there. You know, if you don't know how to communicate or you don't know how to detach or you need help with service, I don't care if you're a praying person or not, pray. Just ask for it. If you don't believe in God, ask the universe. You know, help me find a way to detach from this person who I'm obsessed with, or help me find a way to, you know, whatever, to serve that will satisfy my heart, and just see what happens. Just try it. Just try it. Even if you don't think it'll work, just try it. I used to do that with my patients who never prayed. I said, just try it once. And you know what, Gary? They'd come back to me 2, 3, 4 days later and say, remember you said to just try that? You'll never guess what happened. And then they tell me this wonderful story, you know. And I'm saying, you got nothing to lose. Ask for help. Look for help and look for it from even the highest sources and see what happens. Just see what happens. That's all I ask. Just try it as an experiment, you know. Ask for help. But life is good, you know.
What's the one picture that you told me that's in your room right now that Maitreya drew? The drawing. What does it say?
He drew a drawing for a guy in Japan and put it on his bulletin board, and because he needed this message at the time. But it's really for everybody. It says, "Be at peace. Remember to pray."
There you go.
Be at peace. Remember to pray. And that's what we're talking about. Be at peace. Peace is bliss. It's joy. It's happiness. And if you practice these things, your life will become more peaceful inside. It's an inside job. Other people may notice it. They may not. What do you care if you're happy?
Exactly. Exactly.
Thank you so much for having me on, Gary.
Absolutely. Anytime, Dick. Anytime.
You do great work. Keep it up.
Well, thank you. You too. You're very kind for that. And I want to quote Maitreya real quick.
Oh, good.
Your love fills the room.
Yes, he told me that.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Your love fills the room. And what did he? Real quick before you go, you said this in a video before. When you met him at that time, and you asked him his name, what did he say? Yeah.
I see. He jumped in front of a line of people that were going to ask me questions after I did a talk about Maitreya and the Masters and the Ageless Wisdom, and he said, your love just filled the room. Keep it up, keep it up. And I said, well, thank you. I said, what is your name, if you don't mind? And he said, well, I'll tell you, but you have to repeat it after me. And I said, okay. And he said, you. And I said, you. He said, R. I said, R. He said, love. And I said, love. You are love. And he looked at me with a big smile on his face, opened his arms and said, so are you. And he gave me a great big hug. I mean, I was just totally overwhelmed with joy. His joy just went through every pore of my being. And I haven't been that happy in a long time. I'll tell you, these masters they are joy. They are joy. They are love and joy. And when people start to experience them, because there's going to be, before this age is over, there's going to be over 40 of them walking around on the planet. There's going to be one in every aspect of life. There will be a master in the arts, a master in religions, a master in politics and government, a master in food and health. There'll be a master in every aspect of life, architecture, the arts, you name it. And they're going to just make suggestions. They'll never force us to do anything because our free will is sacred. But they're going to make suggestions about how to live life. So is Maitreya. So is Jesus. Jesus is back. He's living in the outskirts of Rome, and the Pope and a couple cardinals know he's there. But they've been asked not to say anything yet because Maitreya needs to come forward first. It's Maitreya's turn to be the world teacher and for the age of Aquarius. And so then once he comes forward, we'll see all these other masters. And slowly, there are 14 in the world right now, or 12, 14. And they'll come forward, and people are going to be blown away by how humble they are, by how kind they are, by how wise they are, and another thing, by their sense of humor. And you know where that comes from? That comes from the joy within them. They are joy. They are love. And that's all they do is love us. Like I said in our last interview, they never judge us. They just love us because they were us. They've gone through life like we have all these lifetimes. They've done everything we've done. They've learned all the lessons of life. So they know exactly where we're at. They know what it's like to be us. So they don't judge us. They just love us. They just love us. I mean, people will be blown away by their love. I was walking across a college campus, and two boys I was working on my master's degree, and two boys were walking towards me. I was going to the parking lot. And I looked up at the last minute, and there was a young lady right behind the boys. I could see her face between the heads of the two boys. And she looked at me. She was a college student, 20 years old or whatever, short brown hair, black hair. And she looked at me and just had this real kind of little teeny Mona Lisa kind of smile on her face. And, my heart just leapt for joy. Gary, I was so happy. I mean, I felt like my feet barely touched the ground all the way to the parking lot to my car. And I just thought, God, I wish I could smile at people and have them feel the joy that I felt with her smiling at me. Well, one of the signs that you've seen a master is it's an ordinary occurrence, but you can't get it out of your mind. And she kept coming back, and this experience of joy and being loved came back. And there was no reason to be that happy, I was just walking across the sidewalk. And so I finally asked Benjamin Creme, and he asked his master, and the master said that the young lady was Maitreya. And he is love. He embodies God's love, if you can imagine that. And he just shared some of that love with me without saying a word, just walking right by me. And I mean, it was just unbelievable. Well, that's what people have in store, those kinds of experiences. So don't give up. Be happy. Hang in there. We're here to help turn the world around, and I think we can do it, or they wouldn't ask us to.
Exactly. Thank you so much. And you have an open invitation to come back anytime.
Thank you, Gary.
Likewise. Thank you. You take care, okay?
Be well.
And thanks, everybody. You guys, we love everybody. Have a great day, and look forward to talking to you again in future videos. You guys take care.
SOP, save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.
Thank you.